From the train of Volnavia's diaphanous gown, it's the IGN Digigods. Please welcome two of Dr. Phoebe's clockwork wizards, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
A Dr. Phoebe's reference. That's pretty cool. Hey, Corey, who sent that one in?
That was brought to you by William T. Garver of BoozeMovies.com for all your booze movie needs, whatever that means.
Although he did use the word diaphanous. That's big time.
Yeah, baby.
Not sure I can even spell that.
So, let's see. We got a lot of stuff today. Mark, tell our people about the book. We talk about books, too, on this show once in a while, whenever a relevant book comes out. What did we get? What outstanding piece of literature was recently sent to us?
We got yet another Star Trek book. This is Star Trek: The Next Generation on board the USS Enterprise. This is an oversized book, not coffee table thick, but oversized.
If this had come out when I was 13 or 14, around the time that I was buying things like the Star Trek Spaceflight Chronology and going, wow, look what happened back in that year, I would have been all over this, but...
Yeah,
I don't know. This just honestly, feels...
Who loves Star Trek more than you and me? Nobody.
Yeah, I know. This just...
So what I'm saying is that I told Wade before the show that there are so many Star Trek books that if Starfleet actually existed, there would be less literature on the actual Starfleet than there is in the Star Trek TV show.
True.
Now,
absolutely true.
So this stuff just comes across as very repetitive. However, what you're really buying is a CD, a 3D tour of the USS Enterprise. Now... What's going to happen is, although I cannot recommend the book because the book is just too repetitive.
Well, the book feels thrown. It doesn't feel, the technical manuals were always really cool, right? Like I remember I bought the Starfleet technical manual by Ballantine Books. I bought like 4 copies, and I still have them, the original ones. And there's nothing about it that suggests that it's a commercial book. It doesn't have like, a description on the back or anything. It's like a real technical manual from Starfleet.
I have the Starfleet blueprints. It came in that little vinyl pouch.
I also got the Starfleet medical reference manual, which includes like, how to perform first aid when an Andorian's antenna is broken. You crop it between the thumb and forefinger and you hold it up. Important. Vulcan urine is thick and viscous and kills plant life on contact. Why Klingons have 2 livers. I mean, there's all this cool stuff in it. It really is pretty well thought out.
Awesome.
This is not that.
No, but the CD is really what you're buying.
Yeah.
And the CD is a 3D tour of the Enterprise, and that has its moments, I will say. But if you know what I would do if you can get the CD without the book, I think you'd be happier.
Yeah, it's not happening.
And of course, it's written by Michael Okuda and his wife, and they're the ones who really are sort of they're the keepers of all super hyper technical Star Trek information.
They are people who have absolutely nothing better to do with their time.
Just like me.
I would almost be terrified to see what their home looks like. I really would.
You know what? You know what their home is probably like? Large,
like
big, because they have a lot of money. Because all they do is write Star Trek books.
Their home probably looks like the transporter room.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Wouldn't it be awesome? You walk in, it's like a starship.
I do wish I could live in Star Trek time.
When I was a kid at one point...
You were a kid?
Yeah, I was a kid. When I was like, I don't know, maybe I was like 9 or 10, I can't remember. I actually went around... You remember all those old label makers?
Yes.
With the plastic?
Yeah, they look like a little gun.
Yeah, where it would press the plastic
yes.
and it would make it... it would create raised letters that were white because the plastic would buckle.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, you remember those. Nobody knows what those are anymore. Everyone's like, oh, I got a P-Touch. Yeah, it's not a label maker. It's not the same thing.
The P-Touch was like the label maker, like, wow, I'm glad I lived to see this day.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually took one of those old label makers and I printed out labels and that would describe every room in the house and what it was. Like I labeled the master bedroom the bridge, and then I labeled another room as the transporter room. It was really quite funny. The shuttle bay. Yeah, I did that to my house.
Funny is not the word I would use for that.
Okay. Anyway, all right. So we should get this show going. You got the 3D thing going. Oh, look at
yes,
that.
I have loaded up the Star Trek: The Next Generation 3D CD.
Yeah.
And I went to the most boring part of the ship, which is the cargo hold. Why did I do that?
I don't know. While you're doing that, I'm going to eat one of your cookies, and then we'll get rolling.
So,
what are these cookies? What am I eating this week?
They're chocolate mint cookies.
Oh.
I didn't have time to bake,
nice.
so I baked something kind of simple.
It's very good. I like
very
it.
much.
They're good. I think I've had these before, haven't I?
No, I've not.
No? Okay. Why are we looking at the cargo hold?
I don't know.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Let's talk about DVDs because
Yeah.
nobody wants to see.
All right.
Nobody wants to see us do the two things they can't enjoy, which is the CD, which they don't have, and the cookies,
Yeah.
which they can't eat.
That's fine.
The one thing we can do is talk
All
about
right.
DVDs.
All right. So,
Thank you
here.
very much.
Uh,
Let us never speak of this Star Trek CD again.
So I
There's
finally
nothing.
was able to get hold. Very good. Chocolate and mint go well together,
They do.
says the person who loves peppermint patties.
That's what it is. It's peppermint extract.
So finally got some stuff from from Warner
I
Archive.
gave you water. You have water.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
From the Warner Archive collection. A couple of great TV superhero titles, which are worth talking about because,
We're
superheroes,
nerds.
superheroes are still all the rage. And this one is the complete second season of Superboy, which I'd completely forgotten even existed. And, it's funny how many of these Superman series, they just come and go and they come and go. And this is kind of a cheesy show, but it wasn't bad for its time. And it's interesting watching it and thinking about what the Zack Snyder thing will wind up being.
Everybody's worried.
Everyone is very worried. Who cares? But the interesting thing about Superboy was that this was directly tied to the Superman movie, because this was the Salkinds who did this. So this was their attempt to sort of take their original Superman films, the Christopher Reeve films, and somehow make a segue into television. Didn't really work. But it is definitely part of the same lore, part of the same world. It's meant to be a part of those movies, the Christopher Reeve movies.
Didn't have the John Williams score.
No, I sure didn't. But you know what? It's okay for its time, and it certainly has some interesting connection to the comic books, and get a lot of great Mr. McSpitlick, a lot of these villains.
Oh yeah, Mr. Mixelplix, whatever his name
whatever it is. Yeah, and
Awesome.
Bizarro and all these guys from the comic book. So that's not bad. That's the second season, and the transfer quality is perfectly fine. I'm much more excited about this.
No, that was lame.
This totally
That's not-
slipped right under everybody's radar.
No, I
long
remember.
before Linda Carter was Wonder Woman, they tried Wonder Woman a different way.
A bad
didn't
way,
work.
a lame way, a stupid way, a way that satisfied nobody. Zero.
Unless you're a Kathy Lee Crosby fan, which I am, and I always was. Kathy Lee Crosby, the most attractive and least talented of Bing Crosby's children. Anyway, yes, Kathy Lee Crosby played Wonder Woman wearing an outfit that right here looks nothing at all like what Wonder
That's
Woman.
why nobody liked it. It was the lamest.
She's
Just the lamest.
covered head to toe, kind of a mini skirt, very 70s looking. Didn't really work at
You
all.
realize that I used to live in the same building as Kathy Lee Crosby.
Did you really? I didn't
You
know
realize that when this is the early 80s.
Yes.
I was a kid,
Okay.
mid 80s, early 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy Lee Crosby had a long-time relationship with Joe Theismann,
Oh,
the
no
former NFL quarterback.
I did not know that.
And they had a relationship, and when they had this relationship, they were living in my apartment building. And this was after Joe Theismann had that horrible, that play where he snapped his leg.
Oh gosh, I remember
Remember
that. I remember seeing that game live.
That was in
so
1985.
awful. Oh,
and
that was so awful.
all I remember is that sometimes I'd see Joe Theismann, sometimes I'd see Kathy Lee Crosby. And I did remember, and I might have mentioned this on the show before, I did remember that they drove at the time, brand new a brand new gold Corvette. Which at the time, the mid-'80s is when the Corvette kind of changed their body style to something super cool that everyone loved. And they drove that car.
No kidding.
So the moral... Now, I'm not sure if Joe Theismann lived there and Kathy Lee was shacking up with him, or whether Kathy Lee lived there and Joe Theismann was shacking up. I was a kid, didn't ask those sorts of questions, but I knew that they were there.
Wow. Well,
Good night, everyone.
this is not that that's an unworthy tangent, but
Oh, no, it's worthy, Wade.
yeah, I guess.
Why don't you go eat another cookie? Maybe that'll be more worthy.
Yeah, maybe. Well, anyway, the great television director Vincent McEvedy directed
Who directed
this.
a bunch of Star Treks?
Tons.
He did.
Tons.
He directed a bunch of Star Treks.
I know. He directed Gunsmoke. He directed, gobs of television right on into the 80s. He's still alive, by the way. He's 83. So Vincent McEvity, who is just a legendary television director, directed this. And honestly, yes. Is it satisfying as Wonder Woman? No. But it's it's an interesting take.
Lame.
It has a certain kind of
lameness,
cool place in Wonder Woman lore, and it's got Ricardo Montalban, and you can't go wrong with Ricardo Montalban, can you?
Oh, a long time. We love Ricardo Montalban.
We do. We love
There's
him
a
very
theater
much.
in Hollywood named after Ricardo Montalban.
Is there really?
You know that?
I didn't know that.
It's the Ricardo Montalban Theater. It's on Highland between Hollywood and Sunset.
Now, we're going to get into documentaries here in a second. There are an unbelievable number of really great docs this week. I mean, like Oscar-nominated stuff, but just otherwise really high-profile docs. But a few things I want to blow through. And this is always interesting to me. People kind of make fun of the mockbusters that Asylum does. You know, our friends over at Asylum, David Latt and David Ramaui. Because, they're just trying to capitalize on this and that and the other. Everyone does that. That's the reason why you get the animated Lord of the Rings stuff released at the same time as the regular Lord of the Rings, because everyone's trying to piggyback on stuff. Everyone's looking for that opportunity. You get the animated Spider-Man released when the live-action Spider-Man movie opens. Everyone does it. Mark, have you seen the Roma Downey, the first episode of the Roma Downey Bible thing?
I have not seen any of the Roma Downey Bible things. Okay. I don't like Roma Downey. And
well, it's Mark Burnett. You like Mark Burnett. He's your pal. You've worked with him, haven't you?
I've not worked with Mark Burnett.
Okay. I thought you had.
However, I do know they obviously have
anyway.
They're lovers.
Yeah, they're married.
They're having relations. they have the occasional sexual congress.
Uh-huh. Thank you.
Now, eat that cookie and talk. I dare you.
So, they did this Bible thing, right? It started on Sunday.
Yes.
10 parts. 10 hours, actually winds up being more like 8 hours with commercials, on the History Channel, which is the entire Bible, kind of like the entire Bible in dramatic form.
As only a man who produces reality television can create.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
From the man who brought you...
Exactly.
Whatever.
The man who brought you Survivor.
Whatever is the Bible.
The Bible. We dare you to survive all 10 hours. So, suddenly, everybody is doing Bible stuff again. It's just nuts. Now, the History Channel obviously would, it's their series, so I'm not surprised that they release a couple of these things. We get a couple of discs here. It's all compilation stuff. Bible stories from the Old Testament and Bible stories from the New Testament. And this is 9 epic stories from creation to the 10 Commandments in the Old Testament one, which is just a whole bunch of stuff from the History Channel, all just rammed together to capitalize on this. You get, Moses, the 10 Commandments, some biography, and Samson and Delilah episode from biography. You get History's Mysteries, Sodom and Gomorrah, Story of Creation from Mystery to the Bible, Mega Disasters, Noah's Great Flood. So they went and just really culled a bunch of those things together, which is sort of hilarious. I mean, this is just shameless. And then 9 more in the New Testament thing, which is obviously the biography episodes of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and Pontius Pilate, and Mysteries of the Bible, Paul the Apostle, and Judas, and Lost Worlds, Herod the Great. I mean, it's and the thing is, stuff isn't bad. It just feels shameless. But they're actually good little documentary things. But obviously, they've all been put together in this form just to capitalize on the Roma Downey, Mark Burnett thing.
This Star Trek CD, it looks like it feels like some Flash program from like 1998.
And then,
it's terrible.
Not surprisingly, people over at New Line decided to pop out Blu-ray of the Nativity Story. How about that?
Yeah, but it stars the girl from Whale Rider. She's awesome.
Who got pregnant right when she was making this movie. Directed by Catherine Hardwicke, who went and said, it's not enough that I screwed up the Twilight series, got it off on the wrong foot. I'm going to go and screw up the Bible, too. So there it is. Nativity Story, not really that great, but not a bad Blu-ray, I'll have to say. It's got only a featurette and some trailers on it, and it's a very, very, it's a nicely shot film. It has a certain luster to it, even if it is a little bit cheesy. So that's out there capitalizing on all that as well. And then we have a bunch of stuff from VCI. This is I'm just sort of mystified by this. Volume 1, Christian Cowboy double feature. I bet you never knew this existed, did you? That
is some great animation. That is Pixar-level animation, folks. You got to really rent this. Christian Cowboy Double Feature, Volume 1.
Danger on the Pioneer Express and Bad Rock Valley Gang. And this is a little bit of that kind of Davy and Goliath style thing where it's all about teaching you Bible stories in a different context, and I find it incredibly cheesy. And then also from VCI, as kind of part of the same series, are these dramatizations of stuff from the Bible, and you've got, well, let's see here. These are like stories from the Old Testament, Christian classics, great leaders of the Bible, Joseph and his brethren, Saul and David, Jacob, the man who fought with God. And this is all stuff that was originally made in the 1960s, and it's appropriately low budget and rather quite cheesy. You could tell that they were just somebody was throwing this together over in Italy and really making they were doing their level best to do to Bible stories what they had already done to Hercules movies and the and spaghetti westerns. So it's all rather intolerably cheesy, but yet somehow kind of kitschy and entertaining at the same time. And then the last one here is The Power of the Resurrection, which stars Richard Kiley, of all people. And Richard Kiley, looking truly ridiculous. It's amazing how this stuff just does not age well. This is from 1958, and I just don't know. But give it a look. It's like I said, it's kitschy and sort of groovily entertaining on a weird. It's like those the high school movies, right? They have that same kind of luster.
Well, the only high school movies I remember are the ones that taught you how to drive safely,
right?
Like
That's
blood
what
on
I'm
the
talking
asphalt,
about.
that kind of stuff.
That's what I'm talking about. All right, Mark, let's talk about some docs.
This is a great documentary that is a complete, absolute, total must viewing called "How to Survive a Plague." This is a wonderfully put together documentary by David France. This thing charts the creation of Act Up.
Right. I was chewing. Sorry.
It charts the creation of Act Up, and what's interesting is that it not only charts the creation of Act Up, but also charts its breakup. Mm-hmm. And how it started to splinter, and the reasons why it started to splinter. So it's a combination of the ebb and flow of activist groups and how they form, and once they become very powerful, the factions that sort of split them apart. And it also charts the evolution of the country's awareness of AIDS and Washington's awareness of AIDS and their disinterest and that interest in helping to find a cure for it. And it's just a great documentary.
I'll say this. It is incredibly comprehensive.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not polemical, as you might think. It's not sort of like, oh, those horrible people who let people die from AIDS, It doesn't really... It definitely has a point of view, but it's not so polemical that you feel like they're just skipping details and glossing over things and whitewashing complicated situations in order to just make a political point. They really do give you a thorough history in this film. It's fascinating because there's so many details. We lived through this stuff, and I didn't know half of it. So,
yeah, this is great. How to Survive a Plague. There's a commentary by the director and a couple of the Act Up activists, some deleted scenes, and this is great. We have it on DVD, but whether it's DVD or Blu-ray, you really should go ahead and check out How to Survive a Plague, a great documentary, Oscar-nominated.
All right, Mark, we're not allowed to wear the little yellow wristbands anymore because Lance Armstrong came clean as a cheater. But we do have one.
And that broke your heart, didn't it?
You know what, it did, but I'm over it. So, but I have another one here, a new one, anti-bullying. Here you go. Time to take charge. This was sent to us.
You know what? I was not I was bullied. I was not a bullier.
Yeah, well,
I even remember my bully's name.
See, that goes in tandem with Bully, the documentary, which frankly is so-so as a documentary. But man, did Harvey Weinstein milk the hell out of this thing
That's what he does.
Right after last year's Oscars. I mean, right after last year's Oscars, you win for the artist, and then suddenly there's this controversy over the film Bully, and there you go. So anyway, this is the PG-13 version that I have in my hands here, and which they were able to get knocked down from the R-rated version, without changes, I should say. So it was originally rated R. And they worked the system and got it somehow bumped down to a PG-13. And Harvey does that beautifully.
Wade.
Yes. What? What are you doing?
I don't know.
You just started
actually,
it's a good film. It's just it's not brilliant. It's just,
I agree. It's not brilliant,
yeah.
but I did like. There's a and some may disagree with this, and I actually mentioned this in my review that one of the women who's profiled in this, she's bullied because she's lesbian.
yes.
And my problem with that was I felt like that's not the same as... that's more like homophobia.
Yeah.
To me, the bullying that I think I mean, homophobia is, of course, terrible, but the bullying that I think this movie wants to point out, and I think that the story, this terrible story, this brave young woman gets us off that track, is just bullying for the sake of a nerd with glasses,
right? Or
you're just this crazy social outcast who wants to beat up small kids.
Yeah,
I think when you start to get into like homophobia and racism and
they become subsets of the greater problem.
Yes,
I agree.
It got a little off track for me, but
I think the fact that the bullying of kids who are gay has sort of is what brought the issue to the fore, because everybody always kind of accepted, well, there's always going to be bullies, there's always going to be the nerd kid who gets picked on, who gets pantsed, who gets Melvined, and there's always going to be the girl who's outcast because she's a little overweight or she has glasses, and we're just going to accept that. And it wasn't until kids who were gay started getting bullied and started committing suicide, and I mean there are much more dire consequences there. That suddenly people said, you know what, maybe this isn't something we should just accept. So I do think that yes, it does get us a little bit off track, but again, then those were the bullying incidents that made it somehow something that people decided maybe we shouldn't be just so accepting of this. So I'm okay with that. You know what? Another documentary that was Oscar nominated last year and is just brilliant. I cried. Documentaries don't make me cry. Movies rarely make me cry. But this, I just wept. There is amazing emotion in this. Undefeated. This is the Academy Award winning documentary for 2011, and rightly so. It is just absolutely outstanding. What's fascinating about this is that this is one of those documentaries that started off being one thing and then became another. And yes, it's in theory it's about kind of one of those underdog sports movies, right? It's a lackluster team and the coach that has to build them and inspire the guys. But there are, and I'll give nothing away, there are moments in this film, and there's one moment in particular where a thing happens and you just think you could not have scripted this any better. I just sat there and I had to pause it. I was watching it on a screener last year. I had to pause it, and I just sat there and I cried for like a minute and a half. It was so unbelievably moving. It is a wonderful, wonderful film. It is better than most narrative films, and I don't say that about most documentaries. I really think it's outstanding. So the Blu-ray, yeah, you could watch it on DVD, Blu-ray. It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's nice to see it on Blu-ray. It's certainly crisp and theatrical, but it's not essential. You can watch it in any form whatsoever, and it's still unbelievably moving. Love that movie, Undefeated.
I love it too. I think it is awesome. Great film.
Yeah.
Great coach, inspirational coach. And the team he has to wrangle is a team of troubled kids and kids who are trying to do the right thing, kids who can't do the right thing. And
it's drama. It's great drama.
Yep.
They capture every aspect of it.
I agree. I love it.
It's totally awesome.
Also on the drama front is Pina. And this is not the story of one of the three ships that sailed to Murray. This is a collaboration between Wim Wenders.
Criterion, we should point out. This is a Criterion doc.
Yes, Criterion. We love Criterion.
Love Criterion.
Wim Wenders. This is his film. This is all about this. There's this German modern dancer named Pina Bausch.
Mm-hmm. Legendary choreographer and dancer.
She actually died a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
All I can say about this movie is that it is incredibly gorgeous. It is in Blu-ray 3D
which is
well
a
as
first
regular
Criterion.
3D.
First for Criterion.
First for Criterion.
Yeah.
Of course, Criterion did it right.
But that's how it was released. It was released in 3D. Vim decided to go the 3D route because he wanted... Well, there's a kind of proscenium thing that happens here, where the way that he shoots it when the dancers are on stage, and it's a very kind of impressionistic... almost.
This is almost like the Koyaanisqatsi of dance films.
It sort of is. I mean, because there are a lot of interesting. He gets all of the dancers who are still from Pina's troupe, and they restage a lot of these dance performances in weird public settings, but oftentimes on a stage as well. And it's very kind of avant-garde in a certain way, which is appropriate to the dance style. But the 3D creates a proscenium effect, which is what Vim wanted to do. I don't know that it's all that effective. I usually rip on 3D because it's all very cartoonish, but I understand what he was doing here. He wanted to...
It's very low-key.
It's very low-key. He wanted you to feel as though you were in the audience watching something on the stage. And when you watch something on a stage, it is in 3D. So he wanted to use the 3D to sort of make a movie feel more like a stage experience in some sense. It's an interesting idea. I don't think it's entirely effective, but it is certainly an interesting thing to try and do.
It's great. It's emotional. It's beautiful. It's so well shot. It's for dance fans. It's for non-dance fans. I think this thing is just visually dazzling. It's really, really good stuff. Pina, This is, of course, from Criterion, and as usual, they just lard this thing up with all sorts of great extras, behind-the-scenes footage, interview with the director, of course, the booklet with the essay they always have, great high-definition digital master, great sound, a making of Pina. If you like dance, if you don't like dance, you will like it. It's
Totally.
good docs this week. What's up with the docs?
I know,
Wade?
I'll tell you. I've got one here from Kino. This is a history of Israeli cinema. It's great. It's 30 seconds long. Our next title...
you're trying to rip on that joke from Airplane. When the stewardess gives the pamphlet that says, "I like some light
great
reading."
Jewish athletes.
Great Jewish sports legends.
Yeah, but you know, Mark Spitz, and there are a lot of them now, actually. Especially in tennis, you know, there've been a lot of great Jewish tennis players.
There's actually a documentary about which I watched a few years ago. It's all about Hank Greenberg, who was kind of the first Jewish baseball star.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer Hank Greenberg.
Now, this is 2 discs, actually. It's about 3.5 hours long. And believe it or not, Israeli cinema is the history is incredibly interesting, and it's very much tied to politics, obviously. And how can it not be? But what's interesting to me as well is that you get a lot of interesting figures who have been prominent in Hollywood in here, too. Like, for example, Menachem Golan shows up. And
I thought you said the Menachem Golan show.
No.
The Menachem Golan show!
Oh, my gosh.
Sorry,
that would just
Menachem Golan.
Oh, that would be so
Comes out and does a monologue.
Tragic.
Every day.
But it's very, very interesting, and you can't really separate the history of Israeli cinema from the politics at all. So it's almost, in a way, a history of Israel, seen through the development of the Israeli film industry. It's very, very interesting, and obviously now is sort of the golden era for Israeli cinema. I mean, you've got a lot of filmmakers now. Amos Gittai was sort of the guy who held the torch for a long time, but now you've got,
I like Gittai. I know a lot of people don't like him.
No, I like him
do
too.
Find myself liking his
But
movies.
now you have like Joseph Sedar and a lot of others who are really, really up and coming. The guy who did Waltz with Bashir.
That's right. His name is. Hang on.
yeah.
No. Start saying. I'm going to.
You do that. You look for it.
Ari Folman. No.
Yeah,
Folman.
That's it. He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
You play poker with him?
Yeah, we hang out. We hang out. We do the thing. Diana Vreeland, The Eye Has to Travel, is a really, really cool documentary as well. If you don't know who Diana Vreeland is, she was one of the handful of those sort of publishing mavens who created fashion and style for many, many, many decades. She was the editor-in-chief of Harper's Bazaar for a quarter century, and then went on to become editor-in-chief of Vogue. And you cannot talk about American fashion and style without talking about Diana Vreeland. It's a very, very personal film because it is her daughter-in-law, who never really knew her, who did the documentary, who directed it and produced it. And so you get obviously a very, very inside family focus on this. It's a fascinating film. And it's a wonderful look at a highly motivated, incredibly talented woman who had such a marked effect on all things fashion and style that I don't think we even realize how it lingers today. I mean, really just amazing. Unbelievable what people in that particular aspect of the publishing industry, I don't think we really even fully process what it does. It's not like what we have done. It's not like film magazines or anything. I mean, the fashion magazines are the big deal. They are the big deal. And then Paul Williams is still alive.
Yay!
This is actually really fun. I love Paul Williams. It's not
He's
It's not a very deep doc. It's just kind of a fluffy doc. But
Paul Williams had a moment, like a serious moment.
Yeah,
he was great. He wrote Rainbow Connection,
right.
with like the all-time classic Muppet song.
He played Miguelito Loveless's son in the television movie that resurrected the Wild Wild West.
What was that? Wild Wild West.
He also wrote Evergreen, which was just sung on the Oscars the other night.
That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, you know what? So what this does is says, hey, Paul Williams is still alive, and we're going to give you a documentary that just revisits him and his career and his talent.
Well, you know what it is also? He's so incredibly 70s. You just assume that he died in 1979 because he's so 70s that you realize that it's 2013 and the guy is still around.
It's great.
Even though he's so synonymous with the 70s.
But he's so much fun. He's still
awesome.
So much fun.
He's awesome.
He's just a short, interesting, squirrely little guy who has so much talent, and he's a good actor. He used to be, and he was one of those guys who popped up on the Love Boat and Fantasy Island all the time. And it was always it was like, oh yeah, Paul Williams, awesome, sing a song.
He was a staple of the 70s. Anyway, there's another doc that I want to call your attention to, which I know you've never heard of because I didn't hear of it until I finally saw it, called Beauty is Embarrassing, the Wayne White story. Now, Beauty is Embarrassing is a terrific doc because Wayne White is a terrifically interesting guy. Here's the thing with Wayne White. And once you realize his credits, you'll be like, wow, that guy really existed? He must be cool. And he is cool. Wayne White is an artist and a cartoonist. He started his career in the East Village doing cartoons for the East Village, and then he got his big break as a designer and a puppeteer and a voiceover actor on Pee-wee's Playhouse. So you know that the people who are on the people involved in Pee-wee's Playhouse, are just visually brilliant, and they're a little bit twisted. So already you know if this guy is responsible for the visual look of Pee-wee's Playhouse, he's already out of his mind. And for later audiences who maybe weren't around for Pee-wee's Playhouse, he also wound up animating music videos for Smashing Pumpkins, Tonight, which is very visually distinctive, and Peter Gabriel, Big Time, which is also very visually distinctive. So Beauty is Embarrassing is all about Wayne's life. He continues to play. He's a guitarist. He plays the banjo. He continues to do that on stage. He's really very much of a raconteur, very much of kind of like an old soul kind of throwback kind of a guy. And it's great. It's the type of doc that I love, where it takes a guy who you've never heard of him, and then he makes a case for him, and makes a case for his career and how interesting he is, and you realize that these are kind of the unsung crazy heroes of some of the things you grew up on, including music videos and Pee-wee's Playhouse. So Beauty is Embarrassing, the Wayne White story, is good stuff. There's plenty of special features on the DVD, including an audio commentary from the director and Wayne White. And there's a slideshow featuring Wayne's original artwork, which is great. Very pleasurable stuff. Good stuff. Beauty is Embarrassing.
Very nice.
Also doing a podcast with Wade, also embarrassing.
Yep. I'm going to rock through we have a ton of PBS docs right here, and I'm not going to...
Why are we doing docs all day? Is there anything else to do?
Well, yeah, there's a ton of stuff to do, but, docs have kind of backed up, and there was a ton of these PBS things, and I figured it was a good time to get into it. And so, the PBS stuff is always really strong, and a lot of good stuff here for people, so I'll just go through this real quickly. The Reagan presidency, which was it's not the comprehensive Reagan doc, but it's always interesting. Those were fascinating years. We all lived through it. At least some of us did. And, whether or not you like Reagan or approve of the presidency or the policies, forget about the politics of it. Those were interesting years because those were Cold War years. And, sometimes I forget what the Cold War was like. Those were kind of groovy times, the superpowers, and you felt the weight of this international competition. From the series Nova, The Mystery of Easter Island, which is getting all kinds of attention again, and this is on Blu-ray. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You just cannot... It made me realize just what a bad movie Rapa Nui was. Remember Rapa Nui?
That was the Kevin Reynolds movie. Geez, that was Kevin Reynolds' last shot, because I'm sure Kevin Costner was like, please hire Kevin Reynolds. Guy needs a job.
Man, that's...
It's called Rapa Nui. Who wants to see a movie called Rapa Nui?
Yeah, that also pretty much put an end to Jason Scott Lee's career. That kind of tanked him. Anyway, it's just really interesting stuff, and it's beautifully shot, fantastically suited to Blu-ray. And you know what? The island itself and those damn statues are they're just so incredibly. Just unbelievably cool, and this is taking a whole new look at it, and the science behind it. It's riveting throughout. Also from Nova on Blu-ray is the Ultimate Mars Challenge. This is a little bit less engaging, I have to say. This is all about the Mars Science Laboratory mission that was launched in August of 2012. And you know what? This is great on one level, which is the science behind it, the way that they executed the mission is incredible. And I can say that firsthand because
You've been to Mars?
No, my cousin is one of the JPL engineers who was, on pins and needles that night when they were landing the thing. And I remember monitoring his wife's Facebook post. It's like, yay!
Oh, that was amazing. That was a great night.
Yeah, and he was right there. He was in the control room. He was one of the guys who had to, make it happen. So, I mean, I have a little bit of a family connection to it. But at the same time, it's not as sort of apart from that one aspect of it. It feels like they're belaboring it a little bit at a certain point. So interesting, but certainly not one of the best. But very nicely put together. As a Blu-ray, it's very good. Henry Ford, legendary figure, absolutely incredible. This is a great documentary from American Experience. Henry Ford, one of those incredible industrialists and capitalists and innovators who
anti-Semite.
Well, you know what? This is the interesting thing. Flawed man, deeply flawed man, incredibly influential, but deeply flawed. And we can think of Steve Jobs and a lot of these guys.
Anti-Semite.
I know.
Oh, Steve Jobs?
See, you will never drive a Lincoln, will you?
No, I won't. My father used to never. He always used to buy American cars.
So you can't drive a Corvette because Henry Ford is an anti-Semite. Can't buy a Volkswagen
like,
because Hitler funded the company.
I mean, yes,
can't buy a BMW because Bavarian Motor Works, World War I, they served the Kaiser.
There is a certain level at which you really there is a certain level at which you really shouldn't support somebody or thing, but that level is pretty high. It's like if you could trace everybody to some bad thought they had, and then you go, I'm not going to. They want like. You know the whole Mitt Romney thing, and I didn't vote for Mitt Romney, not interested. But the whole thing with like Mitt Romney strapped his dog to a car. Who cares?
I don't care.
You know what? If he would be a great president, I would take 50 shelter dogs, strap them to the hood of my car, and drive the car off a cliff.
There you go.
If I thought that this guy would make a great president, keep us out of war, keep my taxes low, I thought I'd be fine with that. That doesn't rise to the level of me not voting for somebody.
And from the Nova Science, you're welcome. From the Nova Science Now series, we have two terrific ones. What will the future be like? The answer: screwed. And the other one: what are animals thinking?
Stupid animals.
Food.
Animals are
That's
dumb.
It. No, actually, really quite good. Again, this is almost better for like teenagers. These are an hour apiece, and they get into some interesting but very kind of superficial things. But it's interesting. I mean, you learn the animal one. I think is really interesting. I learned a lot actually about the cognitive faculties of animals. I had no idea.
They're stupid.
They know things.
No, they don't.
They do know things.
They're so dumb.
They have a level of understanding that you just don't understand. From Frontline, Poor Kids, an intimate portrait of America's economic crisis. I felt like this was a little bit sensational, but at the same time, they go to some really, really just crap parts of the country, and it's devastating what these kids go through. It really is. But at the same time, it does feel like they're pushing, they're trying to pluck your heartstrings just a little bit too hard. Very professionally done, thanks to WGBH, who does a lot of these. But just go in and take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. It's not like this through the whole country. It's bad in spots, but it's not all that bad. And Climate of Doubt, finishing these off real quickly. Another Frontline, The Politics of Global Warming. This is much more even-handed. I felt this was really interesting. It doesn't get into global warming, the particulars of it as much. It just gets into the politics of it. Very, very nicely put together. Breakfast Special 2, Revenge of the Omelets. You like omelets, Mark? I like omelets.
I love omelets. I love frittatas, quiche, omelets.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Well, anyway, this will just make you hungry. And it's... You got to be careful there. The Mayo Clinic diet. Speaking of hungry, this is. I'm not sure I agree with this diet. I'm not a nutritional nut, but I do try to take care of myself. And you know what? I don't know.
What kind of diet would be named after mayonnaise?
Thank you.
The mayonnaise diet.
What they're doing is they're really kind of attacking a lot of these other weight loss programs, and they're sort of constructing their own. But there's still a lot of stuff that I don't totally buy. It's interesting, but again, take it with a grain of salt. Hurricane Sandy Inside the Megastorm, another installment of Nova. This one is on DVD, not Blu-ray. And I don't know. Hurricane Sandy was a big deal, but biggest storm of the century or something like that, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was devastating.
Yeah.
Wade and I do not live in hurricane land, tornado land, superstorm land.
We
live in earthquake land.
Yeah, we do. And I'm kind of, we haven't had an earthquake in a long time.
All right, don't jinx it. My condo will crumble. My condo will fold like Superman on laundry day.
And the last two, before we get into, Mark, talk about, just pull a couple of good ones out of that bunch there. Pull a couple of good ones. We'll finish those off. Then we'll do a Vox Box, and then we'll wrap up the show with some new and classic titles.
Wait. So you're saying that we're going to talk about stuff people care about finally
absolutely.
After an hour?
Well, these some good docs here. Come on, give me a break. The last two are a little bit middling. Boundless Potential with Mark Walton. Reinvent your career in midlife crisis in midlife and beyond. This is really more about making a real quickie PBS documentary that tackles a lot of the anxieties people have in slow economic times. And then the other one, The Distracted Mind, Attention, Distraction, and the Myth of Multitasking, which basically says, when you're texting while you're driving and listening to the radio and trying to talk to your friend on the phone at the same time, don't do that.
Wow. So basically what you're saying is don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. You'll kill people.
Unbelievable. Okay, Wade, from 1970, we have a great Kino release that is a must must watch, especially during MLK Day time.
During especially during Black History Month.
Yes, which this no longer is. King, a filmed record. Montgomery
That's right.
to
We're in
Memphis.
March now. Jeez,
I know,
February
don't-
blew by. See, it's
don't-
because I had a child who's a month old now.
Freaking baby.
It's unbelievable.
I think she's so smart. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, the older you get, it's like it used to be that every year when you were a kid, every month lasted like 3 months, and like summer vacation couldn't come fast enough. It took forever. Then when you get older, every year lasts about 6 months.
It's exceedingly depressing.
It really is.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is great stuff. This is an amazing documentary called King, a filmed record, Montgomery to Memphis. Kino put this out along with the Library of Congress, who had restored the footage. This is amazing stuff. This is Martin Luther King from 1955 to 1968. This is kind of the his rise from just kind of like a local activist to Martin Luther King and the leader of the civil rights movement. There's a lot of rare footage here, speeches and protests, and of course he was arrested a number of times. And this is 1970, folks. Don't forget, just a couple years after he had died. So it's not slick and glossy, but it's very comprehensive. And I think the original length of this thing was like 3 hours, and this one from Kino restores it to that 3 hour time frame, and it's fantastic. Ruby Dee is in it, Harry Belafonte, Charlton Heston, Burt Lancaster, Paul Newman, all great stars of the 70s. And I love this thing. This was an Oscar nominee at the time for Best Documentary Feature in 1970, and it is a must-watch. I don't know that you need to necessarily wait till February to watch this thing, because it's just great. It's called King, a filmed record. Also, we have, from the good folks at Athena, an interesting documentary called The Power of Myth with Bill Moyers, the 25th anniversary. Now, about 25 years ago, Bill Moyers, who was a journalist, he's worked with NBC and CBS and PBS, he interviewed Joseph Campbell. And Joseph Campbell, of course, is the creator of the Hero of a Thousand...
The soup guy.
Huh?
He's the soup guy, the Campbell soup guy.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
When you said The Soup, I thought you meant the TV show on E!
No, that you used to work on, yeah.
Yes.
When it was Talk Soup.
Yes.
No.
He's the creator of A Hero of a Thousand Faces, and pretty much the archetype for the movie hero who we now enjoy watching in movies like everything that has a hero.
Outstanding.
So this is Bill Moyers talking to Joseph Campbell about the power of myth and The Hero of a Thousand Faces, and it's great stuff.
All right. Fabulous. Mark, it's time for Vox Box.
What? Can I sing the song?
Sing the song.
It's not yet waited. I'm still going. Wait. It's Vox.
Hi, this is Clark from Connecticut and a huge fan of your show. I have a quick question for you. When you are traveling, how do you best watch movies? What device do you use? What kind of media do you use? What kind of headphones do you use? Thanks so much and keep up the great work.
Well, I will... that's an interesting question. That's Clark Aldrich. Thank you, Clark. Good question. Mark, you don't really watch movies when you travel, do you?
I don't, because I'm a classic quintessential proud light traveler. I mean, literally. I mean, I will literally go to like New York for 10 days on 4 days of clothing and just watch everything twice or 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
Seriously, it's like
as opposed to me, who I will go to Europe and I'll go to London for 4 days and bring like 2 weeks worth of clothing. I have a choice.
I've gone to Europe.
I don't like getting down to that last day and going, well, I only have one pair of clothes that are clean.
I have gone to Europe.
Yeah.
And now when you go to Europe, you know you're going for at least 10 days,
yeah.
not 2 weeks. I've gone to Europe on carry-on luggage.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
That's impressive.
And by the way, I am proud of that MFer. I do that every time.
You know what? I will bring my MacBook Pro, and I don't do this thing that a lot of people do, where you load up your iPad with digital copies and you kind of watch it on your iPad. I've never done that. I've always just brought discs along. I kind of bring an old school CD wallet or DVD wallet and just kind of pull them out and watch them on the MacBook Pro, and that's fine. Works for me. The headphones, I'm going to tell you what headphones I use, actually. I use Audio-Technica ATH-ANC7 noise-canceling headphones, which, by the way, are great headphones even when you don't have the noise-canceling turned on. They're just still great headphones. The noise-canceling adds this extra kind of pressure layer or something so that you don't hear the plane and you don't hear other people, and it's great. And it's so much better than watching the crap that they have on those little tiny screens on the plane anyhow. unless you fly Virgin America or Virgin Atlantic, where they basically give you a hot oil massage while you're sitting there watching a movie.
Really?
Something like that. No, they're really great headphones. And the reason I like them better than the Bose. The Bose are like rechargeable, and they've got all this other stuff, and you're paying partly for the name. These are just as good as the Bose, and just bring along some, AA batteries and pop them in, and you're good. If the battery wears out, just change the battery, and you're fine. And it's much better than having to worry about all this rechargeable crap. So yeah, but otherwise, a really good question. That's how I do it. But I don't do a lot of film watching when I'm traveling, unless it's on a plane. That's the only time I really have time. That's it. All right, Mark. Let's move into talking about the.
Finally,
this is the big release of the week, and it's worth talking about because the Oscars were a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and Brave won, and I think a lot of us expected Frankenweenie to win. I really truly didn't think that they would give it to another Pixar CGI movie, especially
it's not
one
very
like
good.
It's not very good. It's just
it was a weak year for animation, and the
weak.
thing is that the animated committee only rarely goes out on any sort of a limb because there's a lot of great world animation.
But 3 of those films were stop motion animation this year. 3 out of the 5.
And that's cool.
That was cool. That was really good.
But there's a lot of world animation that the Academy rarely acknowledges.
We're talking about one of the nominees, which I just thought was whatever.
I don't get it. Everybody likes this movie. Why? Tell me why.
I don't understand why.
Yes,
Wreck-It
it's
Ralph.
video games. I get it. Whatever.
We should get Corey to probably weigh in on this because Corey went as Ralph on Halloween. Which I guess he has some affection for this thing, but I just don't get it. It's like the whole video game concept. We're in a video game. It's like Tron taken to a cartoony level, and I don't understand. Help me understand. It's like Mario Brothers. It's like the whole Mario Brothers thing again. I just don't get it.
I got the screener as part of our last good duties, and you know what? After half an hour, I stopped watching. And by the way, I love animated films. I love video games. Half an hour, stop watching.
But people love this movie.
Don't get it.
What I have in my hands is the Wreck-It Ralph 4-disc combo pack. This is a big whopping mama with a lenticular, testicular, ventricular cover, and the big gold-plated Ultimate Collector's Edition that has a Blu-ray 3D, a Blu-ray, a DVD, and a digital copy disc. All 4. It weighs about 18 pounds. And it is just loaded with friggin' extras. It is just piled on with extras. It's got the Paperman short on it, which is worth watching. That
cool.
also won the
Paperman's
Oscar. That
cool.
won the Oscar for short film.
That's super cool.
And that actually is almost worth the price alone because that's really great. And then you also get a bunch of other featurette stuff, which are whatever, like the Gamer's Guide to Wreck-It Ralph, hosted by Chris Hardwick, and a whole bunch of other useless stuff. I'm willing to concede the animation's good and the voice casting is good, but I just don't think it's all that interesting of a movie. I don't think the story's interesting. It just feels derivative as hell.
I get it. I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
do not get it. And I hate the fact that I agree with you, but I do.
Well, whatever. And then reaching back to an older movie, Phantasm 2.
The Phantasming. Phantasm 2, Electric Boogaloo.
The Phantasm movies are just such a riot. They're not in any way scary at all. But they're just so refreshing. They're such a throwback to not even a different time, because they're not even like any other 80s horror films. It's just its own deal. Phantasm is its own deal. And the great Don Coscarelli, again, wrote and directed this thing, and the ball, and the tall dude, and the whole deal. It's a riot. And does it make any sense? No, not at all. Don't even worry about this story. Just watch the tall man and the ball, and watch people die, and it's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. And Coscarelli and the actors also do an audio commentary that's a lot of fun. So that's on Blu-ray. A collector's edition Blu-ray from the wonderful people at Shout Factory through their Scream Factory sub-license of a lot of films, in this case Universal. Very good.
All right, Wade, there was a moment where Gerard Butler was going to be a star, and that moment is over now. And now he's doing movies like Playing for Keeps, a truly witless and dreadful romantic comedy.
This is the one where he plays the soccer player, right?
Yeah, by the way, when it comes to witless and dreadful romantic comedies, that's really what they all are now. This is just...
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, even the key art looks like just another stupid American romantic comedy.
Don't you feel like... This is how I feel about Gerard Butler's career. I feel like... And truly, it happened in this last year. It's like Matthew McConaughey was driving this just rickety old car, and he could not offload that used car to anybody. He's talking to his friends. He's like, you gotta get it. It's this great old Chevy Nova. They're like, yeah, no thanks, dude. That thing. He's like, crap. And he's in all these bad movies, and he can't get out of them. And then Gerard Butler comes along, and he's like, oh, dude, dude, I can't do all these movies. You can take the, and Gerard Butler's like, oh, cool, I'll do those. And next thing you know, Matthew McConaughey is doing all kinds of interesting stuff. Right, like this last year, Bernie and
Magic
Mike, and the what's the NC-17 thing that Friedkin did? The
not Bug,
Evil Bob,
yes.
the horrible Killer Joe. Thank you. I went from Evil Bob to Killer Joe. You like that stream of consciousness? That's the way my brain works. My mnemonic devices.
I don't like that at all.
So, and now Gerard Butler's stuck doing all the old lame crap that Matthew McConaughey used to do. So now he's got to find somebody to buy the car.
Gerard Butler, Jessica Biel, Uma Thurman, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Dennis Quaid. Don't watch it.
It's on Blu-ray.
Terrible.
Oh, dear. We've got a whole bunch of really cool Olive films here. You know what, Mark? Speaking of,
what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going to give you. I will assign you that to speak of while I'm blowing through the Olive film stuff. Olive does so many cool licensing deals, and the stuff that they're digging up from Paramount is really interesting. There's an old film called Plain Clothes, directed by Martha Coolidge, and it's funny. I thought I remembered all the Martha Coolidge movies. It's from 1988, and it's really pretty good. Really early performance from Arliss Howard as a cop who goes undercover in a high school to prove that his younger brother, played by Lauren Dean, is innocent. So much better than 21 Jump Street, I can't even tell you. I thought I'd seen everything that Arliss Howard did. I thought I'd seen everything that Martha Coolidge did. I was wrong, so that's a good pickup. You have shown me something, Olive films, I didn't realize ever existed. She-Devil is an unbelievably cool film from 1957. This is one of those movies that, even though it's a studio film, it's a Paramount film from 1957, it is a total B movie. The studios made their B movies as well, even when independents were making theirs, and this is so cool. The guy who directed The Fly, Kurt Newman, did this unbelievably cheesy, cool, kind of noirish, mad scientist movie, and it's just you got to see it. You just got to definitely check it out. There's absolutely nobody in this thing worth watching. But it's like Frankenstein crossed with I don't know. Like, imagine a beautiful woman as Frankenstein. Mari Blanchard. Never heard of her. She's fabulous. And then we got another one along the same lines called The Red Menace. She sold secrets for love. This is a Red Scare movie. It's hysterical. It is total propaganda. This is from 1949. This is just the beginning of the B-movie era. It's total early Cold War stuff. It is fantastic. Both of those are on Blu-ray. They are a riot, and you got to get it. Anthony Mann, a guy who had a really uneven directing career, did Strangers in the Night for Paramount back in 1944. And it's not a pure noir. It's kind of a neo-noir because it's got a kind of a World War II angle to it. And I don't think you can really be truly noir with, you're either a World War II movie or a noir film. So if you're World War II and you're trying to noir it up, you're a neo-noir. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, never mind.
Nothing you say makes sense.
But anyway, it's fine. It's it's more of a novelty of the era than anything else. And then Jean Renoir's Diary of a Chambermaid, finally and at long last. This is with Paulette Goddard. It's just a great movie. All I can say, 1946, one of the more interesting Jean Renoir films of the period, and it's just great. Paulette Goddard is just wonderful. It is a fantastic adaptation of the novel, and absolutely first rate. So, if you have the Louise Buñuel film from 1964 that has Jean Moreau in it, you definitely want this. They compare very favorably. Each one belongs to its era, but it's definitely worth checking out, and a great, great Blu-ray transfer. Olive just does it right. Did you ever see A New Life, Mark, with Alan Alda and Anne Margaret? Did you ever see that?
I was all about Alan Alda. My dad loved Alan Alda. Because my dad pretty much was Alan Alda.
I know.
Then when Alan Alda had a pretty moderately successful directing career, I would go see all of his movies.
Did you like this? It's not bad.
It's not, no, because I like Alan Alda.
It's not bad. I mean, he wrote and directed. I don't know why he was never able to get some more solid footing on his film career, because he's a good writer and he's a good director.
Well, because you know what? Because he had a niche that,
it's a Woody Allen-y niche.
It's a Woody Allen-y thing, but
Yeah.
it's not as iconoclastic or as singular as Woody Allen.
He should still be making movies. He really should.
He's
Alan
awesome.
Alda should be making movies. He should be writing and directing them. Anyway, New Life. It's a lovely film. It's a great performance from Anne Margaret. Terrific bits from people like Hal Linden and Mary Kay Place and Veronica Hamill. I mean, all these iconic stars from the 80s. It's a lot of fun. And then Lee Jason, not Jennifer Jason Leigh, but Lee Jason directs Joan Blondell and John Wayne in Lady for a Night. This is such an odd movie. This is another Paramount pickup for Olive from 1942. And I'm not a Joan Blondell fan. I always thought she was kind of odd-looking. She could be fun as a kind of supporting actress who'd make you laugh and throw you that kind of cockeyed look that she could do. And, yeah, that was amusing from time to time. But, boy, this is just strange. It's not funny enough to be a comedy, and it's not really opulent enough to be. I don't know. It's kind of like caught between half a dozen different genres, and it all takes place on a riverboat casino, and everybody's kind of miscast. It's a weird film. I'd almost recommend people rent this more than anything. It's an interesting pickup for Olive. I think it's good for John Wayne fans. Olive is getting a lot of those old John Wayne movies from Paramount that they just don't know what to do with. So from that standpoint, it's nice for John Wayne completists. But I would personally say that's a rental.
Finally, right, Wade?
Oh yeah.
Finally, the unnecessary remake of Red Dawn. When the original Red Dawn came out, it was very timely because the American teenagers had to fend off, stave off a Russian invasion. But now it's 2009 when this thing was wrapped, and America doesn't really have an enemy like that anymore. So what was very topical back in 1984 was remade with absolutely no topical hook at all. And what's even worse is that when the film was originally made, the villains were from China. Right, the Chinese were invading America, but of course, in a lesson in Hollywood business making and geopolitics, the American movie studios do not want to piss off China because China is one of the great emerging markets to devour our films, and there are only a certain amount of American-made films that are allowed to be released in China per year, of which this would definitely not be one. So they went back and they digitally removed all the Chinese villains and replaced them with North Korean villains. So now,
lame.
So now, Chris Hemsworth, Josh Peck, Josh Hutcherson, and a bunch of other people are fighting off an invasion of the North Koreans.
Awesome.
In a film that sucks anyway. So there you
Awesome.
go. I would pass on Red Dawn. Thank you very much.
Well, there it is.
The end of Red Dawn.
All right, so that does it for this show this week, and we want to remind you, if you want to send in any Vox boxes or listener mail or any submissions for our new openings, we still got time on that, so send those all to gods@digigods.com. Again, gods@digigods.com. Send us any audio format for your Vox box question. Send us any other questions in email, and also, again, submissions for new openings. We're going to start recording those probably in April, so we've got a few more weeks to take those, and you can send all of that to gods@digigods.com. Mark, stop touring the Enterprise and say goodnight to the people.
I would like to say goodbye in a very movie way.
In what kind of a movie way?
Are you ready?
I'm ready. And that does it. So, meanwhile, please send us emails, vox boxes, and suggestions for new openings to gods@digigods.com, and include with those openings any plugs that you want us to do for your websites and your books and your movies and everything else. We are happy to do it. And with that, we will see you next week.